Why roll Persuasion when you can just defy gravity? Today we're turning Elphaba from Wicked into a D&D powerhouse, because she's not evil, she's just chaotically misunderstood. So let's give her the justice Oz never did. I was tempted to go ahead and build everybody from Oz, but that would be a pretty big video, despite the fact that I think Galinda would probably be just a bard with minimal magical powers, just gotta make sure you have Odaluk's resilient sphere, and Oz himself is basically just an artificer with expertise in deception. But if you want Dorothy and all of her companions, let me know in the comments down below. But in this video, we're here to build Elphaba in D&D, so let's dive in with the species. Technically, she's human, and she turned green due to a potion ingested by her mother with her illegitimate father, but I'm not going to get into that too much for spoiler reasons. But I wanted to hammer in on the green skin a bit and build a green character. You could go with Goblin, but that's a little too harsh for Elphaba. So I'm going to use a species from Acquisitions Incorporated, called a Verdant. It's a species that owes their existence to chaos. And actually the one feature from this species that I don't think would actually fit for Elphaba, but it just kind of comes with the package, is Persuasive. It gives you proficiency in the Persuasion skill. Then the last feature you get is Telepathic Insight, so you have advantage on all Wisdom and Charisma saving throws, hopefully resisting the influence of the Wizard of Oz himself. When it comes to a background, I was tempted to go with Noble because technically you're from a noble family, but most of the features of the noble background don't really fit very well. So I'm going to dive into the newest Faerun book and grab Spellfire Initiate, because this emphasizes that you have raw power that you are channeling from the magic weave itself. And choosing this background will give us skill proficiencies in Arcana and Perception. Then it gives us the feature Spellfire Spark. So once per turn, when you take damage from a spell or magical effect, you can reduce the total damage by 1d4, and you get the feature Spellfire Flame. So you automatically learn the Sacred Flame cantrip, and you can cast this cantrip as a bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So that means as long as we get some other spell casting, right off the bat, you can probably cast 2 cantrips in a single turn, even if you don't want to spend something like sorcery points. And speaking of sorcery points, we gotta choose a class, and most of Elphaba's abilities rely heavily on her own emotion, and that is definitely a sorcerer. But here's where things are going to start diving in deep, so if you want to follow along, feel free to check out the character sheet linked in the comments and description down below, which is up on Patreon. When we become a sorcerer, we get to choose 2 skills. So we're going to grab Insight, so that way you kind of see what people are really trying to do. You see most of the truth behind Oz a lot more than most. And then we're also going to grab Deception, just because it's a heavy charisma-based skill. Also at first level of Sorcerer, you get the feature Innate Sorcery. So as a bonus action, you can unleash magic for 1 minute, giving you some benefits, like your spell save DC for your sorcerer spells is increased by 1, and you have advantage on all attack rolls for sorcerer spells. You get to use this feature twice per long rest, but later on you have other ways to recharge it. And of course, sorcerers get some spell casting. So let's dive through some of the cantrips and first level spells. In the classic Wizard of Oz, Elphaba does have the ability to do some fiery spells. So we're going to grab Sorceress Burst. This will cover all the elements we need, because you can use it to attack with any type of element. And there's even a point in the book where she does actually freeze a lake so that way she can save an animal. So you want to make sure you have both fire and ice spells. Most of the other cantrips I'll save for the character sheet, but going through the first level spells, you need some of the basics, like Mage Armor for a bit more defense, giving you an armor class equal to 13 plus your dexterity modifier, and Shield for even more defense. So as a reaction, you can boost your armor class by 5 and block any magic missiles coming your way. Then you definitely want to grab Silvery Barbs because it's always useful. It allows you to use a reaction to force disadvantage on an enemy while at the same time giving somebody else advantage on something that they can use in the future, as long as it's within the next minute. Then I want to make sure we grab a little extra damaging spells, so we're going to grab Spellfire Flare. It's one of the newer spells from Forgotten Realms, Heroes of Faerun, but it allows you to blast brilliant fire, making a ranged spell attack, and you get to ignore 1/2 and 3/4 cover. And on a hit, it does 2d10 radiant damage. And if you upcast this, you actually get to create an additional blast for every level of upcast. So that means it's boosting by an extra 2d10 radiant damage. You just have to make an attack roll for each of them, meaning that this is an insanely powerfully scaling spell that is absolutely solid to grab at first level. Then at second level of Sorcerer, you get Font of Magic. So now you have a number of sorcery points equal to your level in Sorcerer, and you can spend them for more spell slots in case you run out, converting 2 sorcery points into a first level spell slot, 3 sorcery points into a second level, 5 sorcery points into a third level, 6 into a fourth level, and 7 into a fifth level. But you can't do anything beyond that, and you can't create spell slots above what you're able to access naturally. But you can also spend sorcery points on Metamagic. Metamagic allows you to alter your spells in certain ways. There's some usual defaults that I go with, but I want to stay true to character, so we're not actually going to be doing some of the same spells. Like Careful Spell is always great to grab early on, but considering Elphaba doesn't always have the best control over spells early on, that wouldn't really fit the character. So instead, we're going to grab Heightened Spell, so you can spend 2 sorcery points to force the target to have disadvantage on a saving throw against one of your spells, and we'll grab Transmuted Spell, just in case there's a elemental spell that you want to cast, but you don't like the element that you have access to for it. But just to get all the Metamagic options out of the way now, I would say that as you get stronger and more control over your abilities, you might want to be careful. So then once you have the ability to get more Metamagic options, then you would grab Careful Spell, allowing you to make sure that any area of effect spells that you cast can avoid any allies or anybody that you don't actually want to be affected by the spell. Additionally, grab Extended Spell. There's some spells with a duration and you just want to be able to double it. Then for the last 2 Metamagic options, we have one that I would usually grab right away. But since we have this Spellfire Initiate ability allowing us to cast a cantrip as a bonus action anyways, I didn't grab Quicken Spell earlier. However, since you can only do that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, at some point you're going to run out of that ability. So having Quicken Spell allowing you to take a spell that would take an action to cast and casting it as a bonus action can still be pretty helpful to have in your arsenal. Then lastly, we'll grab Seeking Spell. So if you make an attack roll for a spell and miss, you can spend 1 sorcery point to re-roll the d20, forcing you to use the new roll. Then at third level of Sorcerer, you get to choose a Sorcerer subclass. And there's a new subclass for Heroes of Faerun that just kind of fit, because it's all just about wielding raw magic and having the innate power stem from yourself and being able to tap into the magical weave at its core. And that's the Spellfire Sorcery subclass. This gives you the feature Spellfire Burst. So when you spend at least 1 sorcery point as part of a magic action or a bonus action on your turn, you can unleash one effect. You can either use Bolstering Flames, so you or one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself gains temporary hit points equal to 1d4 plus your charisma modifier. Or you can use it for Radiant Fire. So one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself takes 1d4 fire or radiant damage. And one thing that's worth noting is that this just requires you to spend 1 sorcery point as part of a magic action or a bonus action. And one thing you can do as a bonus action is convert sorcery points into spell slots. So if I'm interpreting this correctly, that means that you can then use your bonus action to get more spell slots, converting your sorcery points as a bonus action, and then have additional effects like gaining some temp HP or dealing some fire or radiant damage, meaning that your bonus action just became a little more valuable. And thanks to the Spellfire subclass, you get some additional Spellfire spells added to your spell list by default. You don't have to have them prepared. And let's cover all of them right now because surprisingly, a good number of them actually fit with Elphaba. You do get Cure Wounds, which is mostly just going to be for self-healing, but you also get Guiding Bolt, Lesser Restoration, and Scorching Ray, because when it comes to any damaging spells, we will be focusing a bit more on fire just because that's what's most notable in the original Wizard of Oz movie. Then once you hit 5th level of being a Spellfire Sorcerer, you get Aura of Vitality and Dispel Magic. Once you get to 7th level of Sorcerer, you have access to Fire Shield and Wall of Fire. And then finally at 9th level of Sorcerer, you get Greater Restoration and Flame Strike. But also, while we're going through some spells, at 3rd level of Sorcerer, you have access to 2nd level spells. So to have a bit more defense, grab Blur. This allows you to force disadvantage on any attack rolls coming at you. You can also grab Dragon's Breath, so you can spew out elemental damage if you need to. Grab Hold Person to just lock somebody in place mentally. And then finally, grab Flaming Sphere. It's a concentration spell that just creates a ball of fire that you can just move around as you need to. 4th level of Sorcerer gives us an ability score improvement. So here are our starting ability scores. Min-maxing a bit, but focusing mostly on charisma because that's where we get our power. Then we're going to take a feat and go with telekinetic. This will allow us to boost our charisma by 1 more point, rounding it out. And it gives us some additional benefits because Elphaba does have some telekinetic abilities pretty early on. First, you get minor telekinesis, so you get the Mage Hand cantrip, and you can cast it without any verbal or somatic components. And the spectral hand you create is invisible. And on top of that, the range for Mage Hand gets boosted by 30 feet. The other ability you get is telekinetic shove. So as a bonus action, you can telekinetically shove one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself, forcing them to make a strength saving throw or be moved 5 feet closer or further away from you. Then at 5th level of Sorcerer, you get Sorceress Restoration. So when you finish a short rest, you can regain expended sorcery points, but no more than half of your Sorcerer level rounded down. And you can only do this once per long rest. Also at 5th level, you get access to 3rd level spells. So we're going to grab counter spells so you can counteract any other spell casting that somebody else can do, even though you're the prime spellcaster here. We're going to defy some gravity with the spell fly, so you can grab that broom and whip around wherever you need to. Grab another fire-based spell with fireball because it's fireball. You always want fireball. And then a spell that you kind of just fell into by default just because of how people treat you. And that's going to be the spell Fear, so you can frighten creatures within a 30-foot cone. 6th level of being a Spellfire sorcerer gives you absorb spells, so you always have the counterspell spell prepared, and then on top of that, whenever a target fails a saving throw against a counterspell you cast, you regain 1d4 sorcery points. So you're going to want to make sure you counterspell whenever possible. 7th level of Sorcerer gives you Sorcery Incarnate. So when you have no uses of innate sorcery left, you can use 2 sorcery points and take a bonus action to activate it anyways. And don't forget, you're spending sorcery points on a bonus action so you can use that Spellfire burst again. And then on top of all of that, thanks to Sorcery Incarnate, while your innate sorcery feature is active, you can actually use 2 metamagic options at the same time on each spell that you cast. Then also at 7th level, you get access to 4th level spells. And while you don't charm people very well, you can charm monsters to be on your side. So we're going to grab the spell Charm Monster. 8th level Sorcerer gives us another ability score improvement. So we're actually going to take an origin feat here because there's something that's very true to Elphaba as a character. The newer origin feat, Emerald Enclave Fledgling, fits pretty well with Elphaba because she's able to speak with pretty much all animals, and we want that innately. So this feat allows us to have the feature Speak with Animals. So you always have Speak with Animals prepared, and you can cast it without any spell slots. And if you take the time to cast it as a ritual, the duration for it lasts for 8 hours. Then the other feature you get is Tag Team. So when you take the help action, you can actually switch places with a willing ally within 5 feet of yourself without provoking any opportunity attacks. This is mostly for you to be able to save an animal if you really want to, because not many other people are going to be helping you out in Oz. 9th level of Sorcerer gives you access to 5th level spells. And at this point, we're going to boost up your telekinetic ability in 3 ways. First, upgrade Hold Person to Hold Monster, so you can hold any creature in place. Next, you want a big ability to hit people telekinetically, and there's 2 spells for that. One is Bigby's Hand. It creates a giant magical hand to just smack enemies, grab enemies, do whatever you need it to do. And then the other spell is going to be Telekinesis, so you can really wreak havoc with your telekinetic powers. Then jumping up to 11th level of Sorcerer, you get access to 6th level spells. And at this point, we are fully going to embrace that we have become the Wicked Witch of the West by taking the spell Eye Bite. So you can force a creature to make a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they can be knocked unconscious, forcing them to be asleep, which does happen to Dorothy, or force them to be panicked, inflicting the frightened condition on them. At 12th level of Sorcerer, you get another ability score improvement, and we're going to boost up our charisma by 1 point, which I know is going to be an odd score, and if you want to optimize early, you want to put 2 points in there, but I want to make this a full build, and we're going to be able to round that score out later. The other point we're going to put in is 1 point into dexterity. Then at 13th level of Sorcerer, you get access to 7th level spells. And we have access to Firestorm, which is a nice big fire spell, but I like the whole defying gravity thing, so we're going to grab the spell Reverse Gravity. And finally, there's times when the Wicked Witch is able to disappear in a puff of smoke, so we're going to grab the spell Teleport. 14th level of being a Spellfire sorcerer will give us Honed Spellfire. so your Spellfire burst improves. You can now add your Sorcerer level to the temporary hit points you gain from bolstering flames, which is a massive amount of temp HP to give you a real solid health shield, and then the damage of your Radiant Fire is increased to 1d8 instead of 1d4. 15th level of Sorcerer will give us access to 8th level spells, and we just want to grab some sort of fire-based spell, so we'll grab Incendiary Cloud. It's just a big fire spell, creating a swirling cloud of embers and smoke. 16th level of Sorcerer gives us another ability score improvement, so let's go ahead and throw 2 more points into Dexterity, helping out our armor class. Then 17th level gives us access to 9th level spells. And I want to make sure I can convert a lot of monkeys into flying monkeys, or at least alter the shape and general form of a lot of creatures simultaneously. So we're going to grab Mass Polymorph. This allows you to transform up to 10 creatures of your choice into a different beast form of your choice. And I'm pretty sure there's actual flying monkeys in D&D, so just use those as your beast that they're turning into, and it should work just fine. And on top of that, it gives them some temporary hit points as well, so it really becomes your army of flying monkeys since you're actually giving them some health shields as well. Then at 18th level of Sorcerer, thanks to being a Spellfire Sorcerer, you get Crown of Spellfire. So when you use innate sorcery, you can alter it and infuse yourself with the essence of Spellfire, gaining some benefits. You can only do this once per long rest unless you spend 5 sorcery points to restore it, but it gives you a whole bunch of stuff, like Burning Life Force. So once per turn, when you are hit with an attack roll, you can expend a number of hit point dice up to a maximum equal to your charisma modifier and roll the expended dice and reduce the amount of damage you would take from the attack equal to the total rolled. But you also get the feature Flight. So you can just get a flying speed of 60 feet, meaning you can probably swap out that fly spell if you need to, unless you want to use it on another monkey. And then the last feature it gives you is Spell Avoidance. So when you're subjected to a spell or magical effect that allows you to make a saving throw, you automatically take half damage, and you take no damage if you actually succeed on the saving throw. Then at 19th level of Sorcerer, you get to choose an epic boon. And there's another new one added from the Heroes of Faerun book that I think fits Elphaba pretty well, even though she wouldn't like it to be the case, unfortunately. And it's called the Boon of Terror. This automatically boosts your charisma by 1 point. Maxing it out gives you the feature Fearless, so you are immune to the frightened condition, and you automatically gain proficiency in the intimidation skill, and you have expertise in it, meaning that you can really force people to become scared of you. And that's amplified even further with the last feature it adds as part of this epic boon called Flee, Fools. So when a creature with the frightened condition starts its turn within 60 feet of you, you can take a reaction to stoke its terror, provided you can see the creature and it isn't behind total cover. If you do so, the creature must succeed a wisdom saving throw or spend its turn moving away from you by the fastest available means. Then finally, at 20th level of Sorcerer, you get the feature Arcane Apotheosis. So while your innate sorcery feature is active, you can use one Metamagic option on each of your turns without expending any sorcery points. And that's how I would build Elphaba from Wicked and somewhat from The Wizard of Oz in Dungeons & Dragons. If you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon. And if you want to see more characters from The Wizard of Oz, or if you have any other requests, let me know in the comments down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here hoping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to play as the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba Throp, in Dungeons & Dragons. And by the way, YouTube thinks you might like this video, so feel free to check it out. Otherwise, subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to make sure you get more D&D stuff.